My name is Joe Prony, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today I want to answer a couple of questions. Number one, why can't we have respectful conversations anymore? And I want to talk about why do people insist on denying facts. So let's get into this. What was thrown to me the other day, and I thought was really interesting, because I actually think it's true, is that we have a country now that's run by algorithms. And what does this mean? It means that there's a lot of factual material that's not making it to people's eyes, ears, and their minds. Because what it's doing is, it's almost like back in the day when we were kids, right? Like, sit there with my mother and you're shopping and you're going through the thing and you pick up the Star and the Inquirer because it's got, the three-headed baby, that's an alien, that's also the president, And this is what's happening with algorithms today. What you're seeing is that a lot of the material is just like narcissism itself. It's as disagreeable, it's antagonistic, it's combative, it's as challenging as possible. And what you're seeing is, if it bleeds, it leads. And so you're seeing these crazy conspiracy theories where the more crazy they are, the more attention it gets. Back in the Third Reich, obviously we all know Hitler, but the person who was the mastermind behind that was Joseph Goebbels. And he used to say, just make up a lie and say it as many times as possible, and it becomes the truth. And if you want to know how to lie, just make the lie bigger and bigger. People are much more apt to believe it. And I think we're seeing this over and over and over. We're getting to this age where people believe whatever they want. Because if you like the story, you can go find a bunch of like-minded people just like you who don't believe that the Holocaust existed. You can find a bunch of people out there that believe that, I don't know, name the craziest thing you can, right? I don't even want to make up too many lies here today because people are going to believe that. So I don't even want to contribute to that garbage. But people right now, they're believing whatever they want. They disregard the facts. And why is this really a problem? Well, maybe it's not sometimes because it's entertaining, but in today's day and age, it's killing people. It's killing people all over the world, and that's one of the reasons why it becomes a problem. And if we can't agree on truth, and if we can't agree on factual material, then how do we have reasonable conversations to get to a reasonable conclusion? I'm not sure the answer to that. In the path that we're heading down, I just see it getting worse, not better. I mean, I tend to think I'm an optimist, but right now I don't see a way out of this because more people are going down the drain than are actually trying to agree with the truth or find the truth. So let's look at a couple of definitions here so we can dig a little bit deeper into the situation. Number one, the word delusion. Definition: it's symptomatic of a mental disorder where a belief is maintained despite being contradicted by reality. Second definition, psychosis. Severe mental disorder where thought and emotions are not in contact with reality. Now think about those two definitions for a second. What I think we can do right now is understand, without any shadow of a doubt, that I don't know about around the world because I don't live around the world. I live in the United States. I live in Nevada, more specifically Las Vegas. And what I see is that right now we are suffering from mass shared psychosis and mass shared delusions. Most people you talk to are not in any sense of reality, and they will defend their point to the death, even if they have no education, no medical background, no anything background. They just read a meme, or they're on their favorite website, or whatever it might be, they will defend it. And even if they know that it's not the truth, they still defend it. Very interesting. So right now, as we speak, there are people who believe that the world is flat and can show you why it is. There's people who believe that vaccines don't work. There's people who believe that global climate change is not real. They believe that COVID-19 is a hoax. And yet, as far as America, there have been more people who died from COVID-19 in the last 2 years than died in all of World War II. A hoax? There's people who believe that a vaccine that was FDA approved by a very reputable pharmaceutical company. Now, of course, you could find where pharmaceutical companies are in it only for the money. I understand that. You know, I'm a therapist. I know that medications are overly used, you know, but is the way to combat that by taking horse dewormer? Really? Like, what brain sense would make somebody think that that's okay? But there are people who believe that it's better to take horse dewormer than a vaccine from a reputable American pharmaceutical company. So there's this lady, Alexandria, whatever her name is. Let's just call her AOC. That was the big thing this week that people were on. And they said, oh my God, she went to this gala. And this gala cost so much to go to. It cost $30,000 to go, and her dress cost a lot of money. And they're trying to say that she can't be for the common people anymore. Well, she used to be a waitress, so she probably does know about the common people. But now that she got a job in Congress, now she's not allowed to work? How is that? You know, and it's funny, like, you can have any opinion you want of her. I'm not here to stick up for her. I don't care. Like, half the people listening to this don't even know who AOC is, and that's okay too. But this is the point. If you want to argue about if what she did was good or bad, you can't say that she paid $30,000 to get into the gala. Why? Because that's a lie. The designer of the dress paid her admission to go to the gala. So say whatever you want, but you gotta talk about the truth. The truth is still very important. And the gala itself and the dress, they said the dress cost a lot of money, but who cares? She borrowed the dress. So say whatever you want, but you gotta go with the two things. Number one, her attendance at the gala was paid for by somebody else, by the designer, and the dress was borrowed. Now say anything you want. But let's just go with the factual material. You know, there's still some people that'll go to their grave going, Trump won the election. There's no evidence there. Listen, I don't care if you like Trump, love Trump, or think he's average or what, I don't care. But when do we get to talk about the truth? Because that's where the problems are in this country, is that people are so immature, you know, so in their in-group now, that they can't accept, they can't accommodate new information. They don't know how to do it. And that's the ultimate in immaturity and childishness. And that's one of the things that bothers me as a human and as a therapist. It bothers me. So let me tell you a little story. And I'll try to get through quick. Then at the end, I'm going to tell you why I'm saying this story. So when I first started as a therapist, my very first hour at a behavioral clinic, there was about 30 children running around. And one of my jobs was at a particular time to do a group therapy or group counseling with some of them. And it wasn't all of them, it was maybe about 10 out of the 30. And it was my job to put that together. Let's make it up because I don't remember the time. Let's say it was going to be at 1 p.m. So about 10 minutes before the group, and I had everything planned, I said, okay, let's meet in this room, you know, let's get set up for the counseling session. And they all listened, except for one. And this one child, adolescent, he was a 16-year-old boy, he was in the corner by himself. And I told him, you know, once again, you know, as nice as I could. Again, my first hour, I was very inexperienced. I didn't know what I was doing. And I love my teacher for it too, because she let me suffer. So it made me learn. And, I said to him, come on, we need to go to this group. And he said, I need to say goodbye to my friends. And I was kind of taken back because there was nobody there. He was by himself. And so, of course, me not knowing what to do and very inexperienced at the time, I said, there's nobody here. I said, and I was feeling it like, I'm not in control, and I don't want the teacher to see that I don't have control. So I was trying to make this kid go to class, And so I mentioned it again, that class starts at 1 o'clock. And so he got really agitated. And what I learned from that day, not at that moment, because I did have, we processed it with the teacher. Then I learned how to deal with this adolescent. And what I did was I entertained, in a sense, and I validated his psychosis. Because the next time that it came to doing the group at 1 o'clock, he said, I need to say goodbye to my friends. And I said, oh, that's okay. Yeah, of course you do. Yeah, so just, finish up the conversation, and when you're ready, come and meet me at 1 o'clock in this room. And he showed up right on time. And I learned that in order to develop a therapeutic relationship with him, I had to meet him where he was. So I had to basically go along with his delusion at that time so I could go down the road of the therapeutic alliance, and so he would trust me. And not to get too far into it because it's not part of today's show, but this particular adolescent had tried to commit suicide multiple times. He was the son of a pastor, and he was told that everything about sex was the devil's work. And so he wasn't allowed to have sexual feelings, and he wasn't allowed to sexually mature. So at a very young age, whatever age that was for him, when he started reaching puberty, when he was growing hair, he would spend time in the bathroom trying to shave his hair off. And of course, as young men do, they have erections, sometimes spontaneous erections, they just are what they are. He would take a razor to himself to stop that from happening, so to speak. And so we got very deep into detail, and I was able to help this person greatly. And it all stemmed from that I was able to understand that I needed to be able to accept his delusions and his psychosis as a start before we moved on. So this is my question for everybody out there today, because I don't have the answers to everything. What do we do? Because in this situation, what I did worked greatly. But here's the situation. I'm a clinician. I'm a therapist. This was my client, or if you like to call him my patient. And in that sense, I needed to do that for the therapeutic alliance to work. But what do you do when the people around you that are choosing to be delusional, choosing to be psychotic, are your friends, are your family, your spouse, whoever, people in your orbit? What do you do in this? Like, we're becoming so distant from each other that we can't even have a discussion about basic facts. And that's very, very difficult. I'm not even sure where to go with that. Is conversation a lost art? It very well could be. So I think the beauty of being in the world and in a relationship is the freedom to be who you are and what you are, to be accepted. I'm not saying 100% unconditional, because all relationships are a little conditional, but we should be able to speak the truth, shouldn't we? George Orwell, in the book 1984, he wrote 2 + 2, or freedom is the freedom to say 2 + 2 = 4. When I was a kid and I read that, I didn't know what he was talking about. I'm like, sure, 2 + 2 = 4. Of course it does. Like, what are you talking about? There's no freedom to say that. But we're talking about the year 2021. When, for example, I'm having a party at my house a couple of weeks ago. right? I'm talking to my sister, and we were talking about politics a little bit. And I said, like, before we move on to the next part of the conversation, did Obama oversee 75 months of job growth before Trump took over? And that's just a fact. That's verifiable fact. Again, I'm not making this political. I don't care about politics necessarily. I'm caring about why we can't say the truth. Like if I say that this is a male lion behind me and somebody says, no, it's an aardvark, we can't have a conversation. So every time to start the conversation, I gotta go, this is a lion, do you agree? You know, and why do we get to that? So I noticed that some of the people at the party were getting really uncomfortable because I was being the jerk, and I'll admit to it, because I said it to my sister like 3 or 4 times. Can you say that Obama presided over 75 months of job growth? I don't know, divide that by 12. Was it over 6 years of growth? Can you please, before we go on, can you say that's true? I didn't hear her say, yes, that's true. And I'm not trying to put her down. I'm just saying that we all live in this society right now that says, do not bend. Like, the sun rises in the east? No, it doesn't. Like, E equals MC squared. No, it does not. No, like, we live in a society where everybody's in their terrible twos. Like, you know, they just want to say no to everything. And it's like, it's very difficult. So, yes, George Orwell was correct. Freedom is the freedom to say 2 + 2 = 4. I can't even say the truth in my own house, you know, without being challenged. And it's a truth. It's not an opinion. It's not a perception. It's not a kind of a thought process. It's not a philosophical discussion. These are just basic facts. You can't even talk about them anymore. We don't really have freedom anymore. In a narcissistic society, in a anxiety-filled society, in a society where nobody wants to take responsibility or accountability, truth does not always exist. We can't agree on truth. Not because there's not a truth, it's just because people are too immature to admit it. In a society where being outraged and offended is a virtue, there is no such thing as truth without consequences. Now, it used to be truth or consequences, right? Like if you didn't say the truth, there'd be a consequence. Now, we're moving into this direction where if you say the truth, there is a consequence. And I can tell you, even just doing YouTube videos, you say the truth, it's not as exciting, right? Like, I know people that still say the Las Vegas shooting didn't happen, and they've got millions of views, you know? And it's like they say that Sandy Hook shooting never happened. Millions of views, making millions of dollars off of a horrific, I don't even want to say it's a point of view, it's just a straight, bold-faced lie. It's really sad where some of this is going. In a narcissistic society where devaluing other people at any cost is a virtue, no real conversations can exist anymore. Conversation is supposed to be about the desire to connect to people, to understand people, to find meaning through the connection with other people. Socrates would say, seek to understand. The more you understand other human beings, the more you understand yourself. There's always something to be learned by another person. The truth shall set you free. That's like, does any of this exist anymore? The term namaste, I think it means a lot of things. I don't want to say I'm an expert here, but one of the meanings of it is may the light in me honor the light in you. I like that. But do we have a lot of that today? I don't think so. I think we see a lot of disrespect. And we see it on purpose because with capitalism too, we stand to make a lot of money if we lie a lot. And we say a lot of crazy things that bring a lot of crazy people to us. I mean, every day there's new lies, right? I don't see as many people coming together and trying to understand each other anymore. I see it more like a bunch of gladiators with a winner take all, where every conversation is this gladiatorial fight where there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. But let's not fool ourselves here. You know, every time I read this, they say, oh, America is polarized and we're so different. And that's what the problem is. That's not what the problem is. We can be polarized. We can be different. You know, if we look through society, not just American society, but society in general and animals, right? Diversity leads to success. You know, we can look at successful groups, we can look at successful teams, we can look at countries, businesses. They all thrive from being diverse, different, and yes, polarized. We need that. You know, even looking at just basic examples, right? Like there's a book out, I've got it over here in my library, I can't think of the name of it, but it talks about how why the Beatles were so great. Like Paul McCartney himself would admit that given just to himself, he would write silly love songs. Whereas John Lennon was much more of a deep thinker that really, he wasn't about silly love songs. He was much more about maybe society, you know, having a revolution, thinking, you know, and George Harrison was a lot more on the mystical side of it. Ringo Starr was more the happy-go-lucky guy. So when you put all four together, it created something totally different. And that's what made the Beatles. Now, if Paul McCartney was by himself, they probably would have just had silly love songs, and the songs would have been really, really popular, but it wouldn't have stood the test of time. So we need that outside influence from people. It helps make us stronger. Iron sharpens iron. So it's not the polarization. It's not being different that's the problem that I keep reading about. That's not the problem. The problem is when people deny factual content now. That's the problem. So why do people deny facts? Well, just some thoughts. I think they overly identify with a group and they refuse to think on an individual basis. So they pick a group or a team, whatever that might be, or pick a religion, whatever it might be. They pick an area of the country. This is what we think in this area of the country. And they're picking the group and picking that identity, but they're not picking value. They're not picking virtue. They're not picking truth. Because if they chose truth as their number one ideal, then it would be a lot different. Sometimes it's too hurtful to hear the truth. What was that movie with Jack Nicholson? So you can't handle the truth? It's probably true. You know, as a very young bodybuilder at one time when I wasted a lot of time. Because sometimes when I lost for a reason. I lost because I wasn't good enough. But I would tell myself that it was the judge's fault and they had it out for me. And it would take maybe a year, sometimes two, before I really was able to take an objective look at the pictures. And then when I looked at the pictures, from distance, I found the truth. And that's why. And then I realized, yeah, I lost for a reason. And I was able to face the truth. But I was 17 then, or 18. We're talking about grown adults these days not being able to face the truth because they're so identified with a political party or a guy, let's say, some political guy. I'm trying not to say his name. You know, it's like these people can do no wrong. If that's a problem. You know, you're in a cult if you're sticking up for someone who does a lot of wrong things and you don't want to admit that they're wrong. What's another reason why people deny facts? Well, we live in a very narcissistic society. Again, by definition, they take things personally and they feel like their value is attacked. They refuse to accept new information. And all this is normal for narcissistic people. And why is this? They have low self-esteem. So if they are presented with new material, factual material, they're not going to admit to it because they have already invested their time in it and they think it's part of them. They take it personally. So if you say, oh, by the way, this is the truth, They don't say thank you for telling me that, and now I'm more educated. What they do is they double down on trying to defend their position. And then they'll try to read something, right? Again, going back to algorithms, you can find anything you want on algorithms, right? Because confirmation bias, you can look up how many people believe that the Holocaust didn't happen. You can look it up and find a lot of people. Maybe not a lot, but being that there's 8 billion people in the world, you can find enough people who agree with you, and then you just stay in that little group and say how smart you are, and you just feel all good because they're feeding you. They're feeding back your lies. That happens all the time. Another reason why people can't face factual material. Right now, we live in a society where about 20% of American citizens would meet the criteria for generalized anxiety disorder. What does that mean? It means that 1 out of 5 are severely fearful. And what do fearful people need? They need structure. They need security. So if you need structure and security, and your views are challenged, and you're saying, oh, look, here's the other truth. This is the truth here. They don't want to hear it. They can't do that. That throws them into another traumatic experience and makes them more anxious. So that's a problem. So they have a very difficult time being able to accommodate or accept new information into their belief system. It's too traumatic for them. I'll give you one more reason, because again, I'm going to make the show too long. I promise to make a shorter show next time. But another reason is this, okay, the chickens are coming home to roost. Since the 90s, children were taught not to accept feedback. And how does this happen? Well, again, this has been said so many times now, it's so cliche. But if everybody gets a trophy, there's no one who's better or worse than anybody else. There's no hierarchy. So you're not impressed by other people who are more talented, who have trained harder, who are more educated. Everybody's the same, and you were told that there is no hierarchy. We're all just the same. And so you have no respect. It goes on too. The teachers are disrespected. They're disrespected all the time. Listen, when I was a kid, and I made a mistake, and the teacher would call my mother, or God forbid, my father, my parents would never stick up for me, because they know that this person's a professional. They're an adult. They're doing the best job they can. I would accept the punishment as given by my parents or the teacher. These days, you get a 10-year-old kid mouthing off to a teacher, the teacher calls the parents stick up for the kid. What does it teach the kid? It teaches the kid to give 2 middle fingers to authority all the time. Now, I'm not saying always go along with authority. I'm certainly all about a good revolution here or there. As a matter of fact, I forgot who said it, but you were always 3 missed meals away from a good revolution, and that's true. So I'm always about pushing authority. But in this situation, no. When you tell kids that have no experience, no wisdom, and they're doing wrong things, and you're going to tell the teacher, and you're going to handcuff teachers that they're not allowed to do their job with kids, what kind of adult or young adult are you going to create? You're going to the entitlement and the narcissism is incredible. That's what you're going to create. You're also creating a group of people who think that anybody's opinion matters, and it doesn't. Sorry, we're not all equal. I see everybody's a therapist now because they read a meme on Facebook. No, you're not all therapists. Someone saw a picture of a model on Instagram, so now you're all trainers. No, sorry, you're not all trainers, and you're not all bodybuilders either. I talked to a client this week, and unfortunately, coming back from his medical exam, he was found to have a brain tumor and a tumor in his lung. And we could talk about it or I could listen to him from a psychological position. True. But he doesn't want my opinion on how to do brain surgery. You know why? Because my opinion doesn't matter. I am not a brain surgeon. And that's the way it is. So again, part of why we don't respect facts anymore and there's a death of expertise, it's not that there's a death of expertise. There's a tremendous amount of people with a lot of expertise. It's just that we have normal, everyday people not caring about expertise, thinking that because of these algorithms, we can get a bunch of stupid people, and if there's more stupid people than smart people, they rule. And now we're seeing the fruits of that. The world is flat and vaccines don't work, and there's no such thing as global climate change. Meanwhile, look at some aerial shots of the Earth, and you can see like the polar ice caps melting, but that's not happening, right? Anyway, I hope some of this gave you some food for thought. I hope it was worth some of your attention today. And if you'd like, subscribe, tell a friend, and I'll see you soon with a much shorter video. Thank you.